Ladies and gentlemen, we are here.
We're here.
We have first matchup of the playoffs as of right now. Me versus Croc. Could be Woo. They're tied at 6-6 plus 5. Also could be Chase. We're just gonna see how the season plays out. Next up, we got a game that is on lock. It is Tanner versus Chris. They've both been prepping it up. They've both been in the kitchen. Should be a good one. Next up, we have Josh versus Noah. Noah is not guaranteed for playoffs, but he's looking pretty good right now with that differential that Annihilate gave him the first couple weeks. And then next up is another game that is on lock. We have Mnaz. Well, I mean, it's not completely unlocked, but you get the idea. We have Mnaz versus JC. A rematch from last season's semifinals, but this time in the quarterfinals. This is going to be a crazy playoff race. Two of the slots in the Missing Nose and Terraformers / Dittos are in the air still. We don't know who's going to take them. These last 2 weeks of play is going to tell a lot from these coaches. A lot of knit and grit they got to show if they want to keep their spots. But for the other 6, kind of on lock. With that, getting into our weekly predictions. And of course, as always, or I guess not as always, but as you guys saw in the last video, I got my dogs with me. Fellas, introduce yourselves again.
Yo, we're back at it with the Week 13 predictions. The boy here with the Savage Pick'ems ready to hurt everybody's feelings. I don't play nice. I don't play good at all. Look at my record. Tanner?
What's up? What up, peeps? We're here.
I need some more energy.
Pick'ems times. Listen, man. We have a good palate here. Somebody's got to balance the spicy with the sweet, man. That's all I'm saying. That's me.
Tanner's real sweet after his 2-0, and Chase is real sour after his 0-2, man. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think I've ever not been sour. Let's be real.
Let's go through it.
All right, so
like some of these other coaches.
2-0 next. 2-0 next.
All right, hold on. So first game, I guess not really first game. First game on the list, we have me versus Noah.
2-0 next.
Okay, hold on. Gotta introduce it a little bit here. Obviously, I can never get too much into my own games, so I guess you fellas can take it away, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think what mons you think are issue mons in this set, and
I think the only issue is skill. I think it's a skill issue. I think Plaz is going to overtake Noah. Noah has fallen off plus Ratio plus Bozo. I think Plaz is just too good at playing with his team, or with any Pokemon really. I mean, you could give Plaz probably I don't know, a Charmander and he'd still sweep you. So, I think, like I said, Noah's kind of fallen off. He's not been playing the best like he usually can be, and I think Plaz is just on fire and he's just ready to get these playoffs going. So he's gonna run through your team. It's a 2-0 Plaz.
All right.
all right,
Off
then.
of that.
Yeah.
Off of that, yeah. I mean, that's kind of hard to follow up. I mean, I'll follow up with it with kind of just talking more about I guess some of the mons. I think it could become very easy in this game for Blastoise to get out of control. Depending on what type of set, if there's maybe some Shell Smash potential, again, I feel like there's always Shell Smash potential. It's never, sometimes
really
the chances of getting swept by a Shell Smash Blastoise are low, but they're never 0. So I think obviously besides Araquanid with Water Bubble and potential maybe Scarf Coco, something like that to try to keep that thing in check. But again, you've got other things to deal with those 2 things. So Blastoise can get out of control very quickly. I think just some of the other utility, mons that you have in tandem with things like Blastoise, Magmortar, possibly Garchomp and Zeraora in the back, depending on what kind of route you want to take. It's I think it can get out of control very quickly. And I think if it gets out of control very quickly and he starts potentially losing walls like Uxie and have we even seen Vileplume? Has Vileplume even ever come to a game?
Came
Like,
to one game, and that was the first time he played tabs.
okay, so I mean, maybe I think Vileplume, if I'm remembering correctly, is a fairly okay, especially defensive wall.
It's base 90.
Okay, it ain't gonna stop nothing. It might just soften the blow a little bit. Who knows? We'll see. I think your Terra Captain in this game kind of goes pretty crazy. The mind games that it can create are definitely hard for him. Maybe this is a maybe this is a game where you leave Glalie at home. Who knows? You do have a Tornadus. Who knows? We'll see. I think the matchup can get very out of hand very quickly. I mean, on the other hand, there is Zygarde, so we'll see. We'll see what Zygarde in tandem with Annihilate and some of the other utility mods that he has as well can get done. I think it's very much more of a offensive game for you and a more utility leaning more offensive type of game for him. And I think it's going to be hard for him to keep up.
What you're saying is gonna be a 2-0 class.
I think it can very much get out of hand very quickly. Looking at team, matchup, I think he'd have to do something crazy, I think, to make it close to even take a game. But again, I'll have to balance the sour with the sweet. So I think he's definitely able to take a game.
Okay,
I
so
hate you.
I think just based on what you said initially in saying that he's gonna do something crazy to take a game, and off what Chase said, I think it's pretty safe to say the analysts have this as a 2-0 for me. And I mean, I guess if I could put my own 2 cents in, I mean,
Yeah.
y-
Yeah.
took the words right out my mouth, but
Ooh.
it's definitely yeah. But it's one of those things where I could say something and royally screw myself in saying that I think this mon is the biggest threat on my team or against him or for him to bring against me, so I'd rather not say that. But I think this game, Tanner said this is going to be a very offensive game. I tend to agree in a way. I just don't think either of us really have the greatest walls for our Pokemon, so I think it's just going to be whoever gets momentum first is really going to be able to take the set and kind of run with it. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very offensive. Next up, we have Curse versus B. They already played today, so we'll kind of save it for the week 13 recap. But
I can give a little insight on this one if you want me to.
Yeah, we can do a little bit of an insight.
I think what happened this was like Chris initially when he started in this league, Chris really just kind of did it as like a fun little side thing, but I think this season he's really like evolved with his like thinking, and once he like started getting a lot more into it and having a lot more fun and being able to basically sweep everybody up Palafin, he's enjoyed it a lot more, and he's like started to really think about every single game and prep really hard, like doing scrims a lot, like thinking about his prep and things like that. And I think he just prep diffed in this one. There's a lot of things that he just knew about that even B didn't even bring. So I think Chris is really stepping it up, and I think it's scary, and everybody who has to play him from now on should watch out for the level of prep and time he's putting into this, because he really doesn't want to lose. So that's just my 2 cents on Chris and B's game, really.
As his playoff opponent, do you give him the respect, or what's the dog Tanner thinking, man?
So I'll say I think that there was, probably saying prep diff is a little bit weird because I think there were some things that if you kind of look at B's team and say like two things are the main issue would be Aerodactyl and Sneasler. Having no Will-O-Wisp on a Mega Banette that is Prankster is a bit sussy to me. It obviously was able to get the job done without it, so not really much to say about that. But there was some tech that was brought by B to try to counteract that, and unfortunately in situations like this it ends up essentially being a moot point because things like Will-O-Wisp weren't brought. Obviously that's not why I lost, but that's a big portion of something that even words B said after the game was, oh, I wish I wouldn't have changed that, but it kind of just hinges off of things not being brought. Other than that, it was the Palaf and Palmont show. Iron Fist Palmont just went crazy. I think it was game 2, like 4-0'd him, just killed 4 of his mons. Granted, they were all like 20%, but still, Palmont, and then Palaf things around like the walls. Goodra went crazy. Goodra has been going crazy, but especially in this game, Goodra did very well. A lot of hacks, though, I will say. I mean, poor B got like crit twice in a row, frozen and stayed frozen for like 5 to 6 turns, and then burned from a flamethrower. Maybe in a situation where it didn't matter, but still, you gotta count it. So, a little bit of a rough game for B. Definitely a little bit of prep diff on some things, but I think it was, as he showed game 1, I think it was definitely very winnable. Just a couple of things go his way, and we see a different result. But
Yeah, I mean, I was at work when this game was being played, so I haven't really had a chance to watch the replay yet. But just based on what the Peanut Gallery was saying and all that, I mean, I think this is when I think of games of the season, I think this is probably up there. Probably, I think B really, the past 2 weeks, B's really stepped it up. He's really shown that he wants to be in playoffs, and he had a fantastic lights out performance last week against MNES. This week had a super good showing, but just fell a little bit short. Really opened up the door for Noah because. B's record now is 6-7, so he really needs Noah to lose to me, because if Noah beats me, that puts B in a really bad spot going into the last week. It puts B in a pretty bad spot. So definitely reliant on Noah to start choking some of these games, because again, Noah's differential is a lot better than B's. Noah's at plus... Oh god, I didn't even count it. Let me see. Schedule really quick. So Noah beat Tabs by 1 point, so he's at plus 16. And B... I didn't count differential from his game against Chris, but... Fuck it. We'll do the math real quick. Hold on. Quick math break. Hold on. Where's the replays? B versus Chris. B versus Chris. B versus Chris. Okay. Okay. So two. Okay. So B's now at 6-7 at +5. So Noah's got 11 differential over him, which is a pretty big deal this late into the season. So B is very reliant on me to beat Noah pretty convincingly to keep him in the race. I mean,
he should be very hopeful about it. So, I don't think there's a way you lose.
I mean, the issue is, like, even if I beat Noah, right, I need to take a lot of differential off him for B to have a confident, like, thing going into the last week. Because B's last game is against Preston, who shattered mental, definitely a winnable game, but Last Respects is a pretty cool button. So that's gonna be tough for the B man. And then Noah's last game is against JC, and I think Noah's last 2 games being against me and JC opens the door a lot for B. B had 2 very hard games in MNES last week and Chris this week. He beat MNES pretty convincingly, and he had a close game against Chris, but fell a little bit short. I think as long as he can have a pretty dominant performance against Preston, I think just with the way me and JC have been playing, I think we can handle the Noah. So as long as B can beat Preston next week, assuming Noah loses out and B wins against Preston, he will have that 1 win advantage, and that's all that matters. So for B, he really needs Noah to lose out, and he needs to beat Preston next week. That's a pretty big must-win game for him and Preston both, because again, as much as we're not giving Preston the due credit, Preston does play Nick this week, which, as we all kind of know, that's kind of a freebie. So
We'll see.
Preston and B seasons both come to an end week 14, one way or another. I mean, that is the playoff. In my mind, that is the playoff game. Whoever wins that set is most likely making it to playoffs. So that is going to be a very interesting game to see.
For sure. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes down.
I need Nick to lock it in more than he's ever locked it in and beat Preston.
I was gonna
Just
say
for
whenever
the-
he
just
said
for
that,
the, like-
I would say that a very shattered mental against a very I will say Nick's mental is kind of caught like a second wind, and he's putting more time into
Are we
Pokemon
sure
now
about
and
that?
like actively trying to learn. So
After surrendering with 4 Mons left?
I think we're gonna see a very different Nick from now on. So we'll just be prepared for that. So,
I hope. I'm playing week 14, man. I hope to see a new Nick. But
mhm.
yeah, that's kind of the thoughts on the B man and the Chris. I mean, not really much to say about Chris. I mean, second team in the league, prime position to make a big run in playoffs. So obviously for Chris, I mean, just another week in the league. But for B, he's got a pretty massive game against Preston next week. I mean, again, there's been a lot of stress on B in this last 3 or 4 weeks, but it's what happens when you don't have not that he's had a bad season, but when you don't have a good record towards the end. I mean, you got to pick up the slack that you got to pick up the slack from the earlier sets. So again, he's had his most. I mean, it's how it goes. I mean, end of the season games are always gonna be the most important, but for his season to come down to the last respects Basket Legion is definitely a not a good thing that you want to think about going into your last week. But that's up to him to figure out next week. So yeah, we'll move on from that. Next,
Alright, let me go. Let me talk.
all right.
me
So
talk.
Woo versus Tabs. You cook, man. Cook for us.
Alright, listen. Tabs, listen. I know, not even just because I need you to win this game for me to have a chance at playoffs. I just think, right, if you just look at the 2 teams, there is clearly one Pokemon. I'm not even the one you might be thinking. There's clearly one Pokemon that I think Tabs, if he gets rid of that, can completely take over the game. I think that. I mean, can I say it? Is it troll to say?
I mean, we're kind of playing the role of analyst here, so I mean, I guess, yeah, go for it.
I mean, I can say it.
I mean, fuck it, go for it.
I really just think, Tabs, that if you can get rid of Crobat, in whatever reason, you get rid of Crobat, you can handle the other things that Woo has for you. I don't know if where your mental's at after today. I didn't even realize you lost. I thought you won the game when I came back to the call earlier. So, like, I think you have plenty of things that can take over the game and not even necessarily be worried about last respects. Like, you have so many ways to handle this, and I really hope you pull through, not just for me, but also for yourself, because no one likes to lose. So that's really that's my thing in there.
He do be having a low punny though. For the last respects.
That's why I say he needs to get
So-
rid of Crobat. So thank you, Tanner, for.
We can't. That's gonna be. Last respects can't just go crazy as long as Lopunny's alive, and then also
Get the
there is
Quilliam.
also the issue of priority Terra grassy glides going into that Houndstone.
What I'm
Who
saying,
cares if
bro.
it's in the sand? So we might be seeing a fluffy Dogo next week. So it'll be an interesting game for sure.
All right, but just on with everything in consideration, coach mentals, pressure of the match, team matchup, who we got winning this?
Y'all
I'm
go
giving
first.
I'm giving it to Woo.
What, in 2-1, 2-0?
I think 2-0.
Okay, Chase.
I said you go first.
Oh, me? Well, we already know you're doing tabs, so do you think 2-0 or 2-1?
Not necessarily. Hang on, I'm thinking. Go.
Alright, so for me, I think tabs is an interesting case. I guess I'll start with Woo and then I'll go into tabs. So for Woo, I kind of said it in a couple other weekly recaps, but Woo has a very it's not a bad thing by any means, but Woo has a very relaxed approach to the league. I mean, if he does good, it's good, and if he does bad, it's like, well, it is what it is kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I think when you have that mentality in such like a high stakes game like this, like, yeah, his season is very much in the line. He needs to keep pace with Croc to at least not even keep pace. He needs to do better than Croc because they are dead even, 6-6 plus 5. So he needs to really break away here, and this is the set to do that. So for Woo, this is a big game. He needs to win. Because Croc, as we'll get to in a little bit, or hold on, I'm on the wrong thing here. As Croc, we'll get to in a little bit, but he plays Josh, which that's a very difficult game. So for Woo, the door is very much open. Tabs obviously has a good team, but has definitely struggled to use some of the pieces at times. So I think for Woo, this is a pretty. I think this is a big game for him to really break away from Croc and put the pressure on Croc going into this last week of play. And again, for Chase, lost to JC this week, which means if either Woo or Croc get a singular win in these last 2 weeks, Chase's season is officially over. So, as much as I hate to say it, I think Woo's winning.
And we can't have the dog out, right? So
I mean, listen, Chase. I love the dog. I'd love to play you in playoffs, but I think, and to go back to what I was saying about tabs, I think after his loss to Noah, I think he thinks mentally his season's over. So I don't think he's like, obviously mathematically there's a way he makes playoffs, but within reason, I don't think there is a way he can make it. So for tabs, I kind of think he's gonna take a little bit more of a chill approach to the last 2 weeks, and I think with both of those two things colliding, I think Woo's probably gonna walk away with this one.
with a what?
I think it's
I
a
mean,
2-0.
I mean, kind of like what Tanner was saying in the last game, but I think tabs can very much take a game off Woo. But I think just for the sake of how each coach's season is in order, I would have to agree with Tanner. I think it's gonna be a 2-0.
All right.
And let me, but before you go ahead, let me elaborate a little bit more on why. So like I'm kind of gonna use the same example that I used, from the game with Plaz as well. Like when Woo's team gets going, I genuinely don't think there's gonna be anything tabs can do to recover from that. Because Woo's team can, like, almost all of his mons are bulky. Aside from like I think it's literally like No, even Crobat can be bulky. I think it's literally just Blaziken. Blaziken is the least bulky thing on this team, and everything else can be run bulky.
Yeah.
So, you know, if he can deal with the things that like the Necrozma and maybe possibly the Skeledirge, but do you really want to bring 2 ghost types when there's a Mega T-Tar and a Houndstone in the game? Probably not. You know, we'll see. I think Wu, it's very much easy for Wu to get his team going against his. I think the only thing you really have to be afraid of is Necrozma just setting up to +6 and stored power sweeping you, but you know, maybe you just gotta have a contingency plan for that and then figure out how to deal with it. But like I said, I think Wu's team can get off the ground very quickly, and it will be very hard for Tabs to claw his way back in that game. That's why I say 2-0.
Alright, so me coming into it just like looking at it as a matchup perspective, I think I agree with the things you guys are saying about Wu's team, and I think even though I don't like you said, I don't think there's any way Tabs can make it in the playoffs anymore. I think Tabs needs to come in with that mentality. Like you said, Wu is kind of chill when he plays. Tabs needs to come into that with mentality like, I'm going to be spiteful as hell, and I'm going to dog this guy up as much as I can. And I think Tabs needs to also use his experience with Pokemon against Wu in these games. I think Tabs' experience can definitely overtake Wu if he puts enough time and preparation into the things that he needs to look at for Wu's team. I think Wu, like Tanner said, Wu's team is a lot easier to get going. But it's not necessarily unstoppable, especially when Tabs has a lot of things that can stop Wu's very threatening Mons. So I'm hopeful that Tabs will come in at it with a spiteful mindset and want to just finish the season out strong and just really show that he is a better battler. So I am going to give it to Tabs 2-1.
Fair enough. But unfortunately, you have been outvoted by the council, so it's still going to Wu.
That's fine. That's fine. I think Wu will win game 1, and then I think Tabs can absolutely bring it back.
And I think another thing, just to tack on before we move on to the next one, I think another thing that's pretty important is the past 2 weeks he played JC and Noah, and Tabs is in pretty convincing positions in both of them, and they were both super important games, and he somehow found a way to lose both of them. And I think that kind of effect, just again, that kind of effect that has on your brain when you are in dominant positions against 2 amazing coaches and you find a way to lose, that just is beyond gut-wrenching. And I just don't know how he recovers after losing his 2 most important games back-to-back when he was in such a lead, so I don't know.
Fair. Next!
I mean, honestly, we can probably skip this one as well. I mean, not to be a dick, but the biggest...
2-0, and Maz is kicking in the ass. Go on next.
If Chen Pao gets anything less than 10 kills in this game, Imnaz is a failure. I'm just saying.
Yeah. All right, next.
It might as well be.
All right,
it might
to give a little bit of an analysis going here. Shut up. News, one counter to Chin Pao, if you want to call it that, is Mawile, or is this his dual stab? And when you have to switch in your win condition to eat a hit from Chin Pao, that's not a good thing. So
I didn't have Imaz's right team in here, bro. He doesn't have Lilligant or Comfey anymore.
Yeah, I know. This isn't updated, Bozo. I don't update it that often. But
I'm so sorry.
Regardless, yeah, just
That's why I said 10 though and not 12. I was gonna give him all wow.
Yeah, I mean, Chin Pao's at 50 kills right now, or no, he's
I think he is right at 50.
yeah, he's right at 50 because this so he's at 50, and Mega Scissor ended the last season with 55. So I think this is the game where we see Chin Pao break the all-time kill record in Big Juice, and cement himself in history as the highest kill mon of all time. So this is gonna be a game for Big Juice history, and it's just unfortunate that New's gonna be on the receiving end of that. So a big 2-0 that we're all expecting from New. And again, one last tack on. New has been playing very well recently, but again, just not having an answer to Chin Pao is that's always gonna be a tough
Chin Pao
one.
diff.
Yeah.
For sure. It's not really much more that needs to be said about that. That's Chin Pao diff.
Alright, so on to the dog Tanner. You played your game against Biff a couple hours ago, so while we obviously probably will save this more for the weekend recap, I mean, give your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so this is absolutely a very offensive game. Coming from me saying that I have the more defensive team than he does is, you never say that about me. Don't want to spoil too many things for the actual video, but the main thing that I was afraid of was Glamora. It was Scarf Glamora. I planned, not a lot of my team around it, but a couple of little things, around it. I think that Mon did fantastic into my team with the covers that it gets. Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball, Earth Power, Power Gem with a Scarf. One hits my Valiant. Energy Ball does a pretty decent chunk to Blastoise. Yeah, I mean, Power Gem does a pretty decent amount to Arcanine if I have to switch in on it. Obviously, Earth Power can just one-hit that thing. Dazzling Gleam for both of my Paradox Mons. Vikavolt, Glastrier. Like, when you just look at Glamora as a Mon, and with the covers that it gets and like how good its stats are, in special attack and speed, that was the main thing I was worried about. Which is also really weird to say when you look at Mega Gallade Iron Bundle on that team with Glamora, and I was more worried about Glamora than I was them. So, that was the main thing I was harping on, so did a lot to try to figure out how to counter that. And then I think just in general, my team has a pretty good matchup into his team. If not, like, it is, if you run simulations, my team wins that battle like 99.9% of the time. So.
Alright, Dog Chase, you got any takes or
I mean, honestly, no.
Okay.
I don't. I just think it's just Coach Diff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I were to put 2 cents on this, I mean, you have one coach who's on a pretty big win streak, and you have one coach who's out of playoffs. Season doesn't really matter anymore. So I mean, for this, it was just kind of it was just a due process, as you will, just a game that you kind of just have to play just to get it done. So I mean, good game from Tanner though, of course, and bit for Biff. I mean, I don't know, just think about next season. We want to draft. Been saying it the past like 2 or 3 weeks, but I guess I'll keep repeating it. All right, on to Chase versus JC. Chase, your game. Give us the thoughts and all that.
I think going into the game, I had a lot of expectations of like what I thought he was bringing and things that I was ready for and scared of, and some of them turned out to be the case. The slow bro coming, honestly, I thought I could handle better than what I was able to handle, and the Hitmontop honestly was just, it was just a crazy good wall. I think this game really, I think I definitely could have put more time into looking over the possibilities of what he could bring against me instead of just running with what I scrimmed against. That's not to say that like JC played any kind of bad. JC definitely played better than I did. I definitely could have looked into his team more and think. I mean, Hitmontop really went crazy. Choice Scarf Noivern went crazy. I definitely could have prepped better, but he ultimately like game one. It wasn't necessarily that dominant game one, but game two he definitely kind of put me in a pack. Hate to say it, but he played well. So I'm hanging on by a thread for my season, but I'm hoping that I'm not out yet.
Just two takeaways I personally had from this set was one, I can understand the purpose behind the Choice Scarf Cinderies, but I feel with Lantern it kind of takes care of the Sharpedo, and then with the Chi-Yu potential, I feel like it's tough because like for that part I understand, but in a way it's just like it's hard. It's hard to. It's a tough call, and you had to make it. It's just one of those things. So like I can't harp on that too much. But the one thing I'm absolutely gonna dog you for, cause you fall for this shit every time, is goddamn Infiltrator, bro. I mean, Frisk. Literally, like if Noivern had Frisk, it tells you on screen and in the chat logs that it frisked your item.
No, I didn't know Noivern had Infiltrator. I didn't know that, so
we're gonna move on to the next set.
Tunnel vision prep diff. Enough said.
100%.
Chase, if I could give you one piece of advice, I think you should draft an Infiltrator mine, because you seem to always get put in a pack by them.
Hey man, it's
Hey,
true.
bro. You a Yu-Gi-Oh! You a Yu-Gi-Oh! Man, the way you don't read cards. That's all I'm saying.
Hey bro.
Oh my
Don't
heavens.
bitch right in.
Alright, so we got Nick versus
I hate this.
that's why we're moving on, man. Can't dog on the boy too
I'll
much.
tell you why I hate this matchup.
Oh, yeah, this is we have Nick, who is tied for worst coach in the league, and we have Preston, who at one point was probably a fan favorite to make it to finals, in all honesty, but made a couple trades and his team really went into the gutter. So we have two teams. Again, Preston. This is where Preston gets the momentum. I mean, we've been saying it the past couple weeks, but this is really where Preston can gain that momentum last minute. I mean, you have essentially what everyone kind of wants in a free game. You have it in front of you and Nick. You win this game, and then you go on to play B, and that is probably the decider. Because again, Noah plays me, and then he plays JC. So the door is very open for B or Preston to take the spot. Preston, this is a good game to really build up your differential, really get at it, and then you go into your match against B week 14, and you just bring what you got. You got that win under your belt. B's coming off a pretty harsh loss. This is where you build the momentum for your match against B. And again, we can say what we want about Nick, but I think experience alone, Preston should have this 100%.
I don't know, bro. It's you know, the rain show versus the electric gym leader.
He do
So-
be having a Thundy.
He do, but they're. I mean,
And he
you
do
know, I
be
think-
having a Zygarde 50, which outspeeds all of his electric types.
I'm just saying, does he outspeed Toxtricity if he gets that shift gear up?
I mean, nothing outspeeds that, but I see what you're saying.
So I think if Toxtricity can get off the ground a little bit, depending on what kind of mons are alive, I think it could be very scary for him. And I think there's arguments for the other two electric types on his team as well, but we'll see. I think it'll be a little bit of a closer game than a lot of people are expecting. I think Nick has been putting his head down and kind of putting his head more into Pokemon and trying to learn what his Mons do. I know I've been talking with him a little bit about some things, and he's asked questions, and we're definitely seeing the very beginnings of a different Nick in Big Juice. So, this one's hard for me to just give it to one way or the other, because I don't know if you really can. I mean, I think like veteranship in the league, I think you can, you give it to Preston. I think matchup wise, I'm gonna be real. I think Nick's got it. I think Nick's team is actually pretty good into Preston's, and we'll see how it goes.
Dog chase.
I'm kind of with Tanner. I think that Nick's team has a great matchup in the Prestons, and I think this is kind of what I think. I think if Nick wins game, I think at any point in this, if Nick loses a game, then he'll probably count himself out. I think if he wins game 1, or even if, like, I think he has to win win game 1 to like keep his momentum up to the rest. And Nick like, oh, I can win. But I think the second he loses his game, I think he'll be clocked out, just because that's kind of how it seemed. Like even if he like wins game 1 and then loses game 2, like he'll be like, oh man, like now I'm playing horrible, I suck, I'm gonna forfeit. Like I feel like that's how he's gonna get. I hope not, because I really do think he has a good matchup in Preston's team, and I think Nick, like Tanner said, he's been on the horizon. He's slowly but surely learning things and getting things there. And I really want Nick to win this game, just because I do, and because it's Preston. And I think he can do it. I really do think he can pull it through. And I hope Preston underestimates the hell out of him and gets put in a pack.
Alright, so one last thing I guess I'll put in to, I guess, a little counter. Yeah, 3 electric types against Rain Team, haha, like, yeah, spam, but Spadef Heatran is gonna be eating them hits, and Zygarde gonna be having a field day, so, I think, I mean, yeah, he has a Mega Garchomp, but, the Mega Stone ain't been doing much for him, so, in my mind, like, I get it, Preston's been having a pretty rough second half of the season, but with all that taken into account, in my mind, you could not convince me that Preston doesn't take this game. So, I'm saying 2-0 Preston, but what are y'all thinking?
I think it's getting very close for Nick. I'm gonna give him a game. I'm still gonna say Preston probably wins it, just because of, at the end of the day, we still do have last respects. So I'm gonna give it to Preston, but I guess in order for this, it's a 1-2. So
I think I'm gonna agree with Tanner. I think it's a close 1-2 to Preston.
Fair enough. But at least we can all agree that the winner will be Preston, and I think going into that week 14, Preston versus B, I think I mean that I mean, I've been saying it the past couple weeks, but this, when playoffs are literally on the line, that is match of the season caliber with just stakes alone. So very excited to see that potential playoff. Again, Noah could beat me and he could beat JC, but assuming how things are that we would expect with the better, like, JC's been JC of old, so I can't expect him to lose to Noah. And we've talked about my game already. So with Noah having 2 losses potentially added onto his record to be 6-8, B and Preston are in prime position to steal his spot. So I think, yeah, just to reiterate, B versus Preston, week 14, that's going to be a pretty big game. So moving on to our last set of the week, we got Croc versus Josh. Who wants to go first?
I can go.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so this is my opinion on Croc. I think Croc came in, he was doing good. He had like a pretty steady pace going. Had like a loss or two in there. Wasn't really like nothing. Like he was still good. He was still picking up wins and doing fine. I think lately he's been kind of on the back foot and hasn't been able to kind of like push himself forward, like off of the back foot and get back in the fight as much. I think a lot of his games have been a lot more close than they should have been, or he's just been getting kind of dominated. Um, I think it's like the opposite with Josh. Josh has had like a pretty up season consistently, and even now he's in like a pretty big momentum gain. So I think they can be close, but I think Josh is 2-0 and Croc.
All right. You got it.
I would say, I mean, just kind of looking off a team matchup, I think there are things that both teams can do to give themselves a little bit of an edge. I think the one thing I'm looking at right now, and because this is kind of such a big game, I'm not going to say like too much. Just utility wise, you know, some of the mons that Croc has, excuse me, I think are pretty decent into Josh's team. I think it's very much going to be a pivot game because there are things on both teams that like, oh, if this mon dies, then this other mon can kind of just run rampant and that sort of thing. So, obviously Gyarados is a big point as well. I think, you know, we can all kind of point at Gyarados and say, it's going to come down to a mind game, with Gyarados and Iron Moth. You know, I think if Gyarados gets going and you know, maybe you lose the 50-50 on the Terra, you know, choices with Moth and Gyarados, then you're definitely in a little bit of a rough spot. Because I think at that point, you know, you're losing half your team to deal with the out of control either Gyarados or Iron Moth. So we'll see. Like I said, I don't want to say like too much just off of like first little look see, but you know, Gyarados would be my biggest kind of pinpoint for this game.
I mean, yeah, Croc's whole
I
season
disagree.
has been kind of crutched on Gyarados, but in my mind, I think the mon that, I mean, should I say it or should I not say it? I mean,
I think Iron Moth destroys Croc's entire team.
no, I disagree. Actually, I think there's.
I absolutely disagree. There is literally a dox button right there in your face, my guy.
Well,
I mean,
no.
Doxman, sure, but a lot of the things that y'all were talking about, like Gyarados doesn't do anything to that thing.
I think the
For
mon.
what?
To Iron Moth, he's Terra Grass.
Chase, I would love for you to look at Gyarados and tell me what his secondary typing is.
I understand, but it's not like he gets like crazy flying type moves.
Sometimes you don't need a crazy flying type move. Sometimes you just need a little bit of cool tech.
All right, you bring balance and let me know how it goes.
Listen, I think you guys are overlooking something. I think.
No, I think the mon that I didn't mention is the mon that you were gonna mention, and that's why I didn't mention it, because I don't know if I want to pinpoint it that heavily.
Okay, so I guess I won't say it then, but yeah, I think there's a certain mon here that kind of runs Croc's team, and
Oh, you're talking
I'm
about
gonna say it.
Josh's point of view.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
talking
say it. I'm gonna say it.
Okay, you can say it, but
It's fucking Mousehold.
no.
I think Mousehold could run his team.
I'm gonna say it because no one's saying it. I think Samurott is a big issue this game. I mean,
Facts.
your only hazard remover is Comfey, and do you bring it into Iron Moth Ferrothorn? I don't know. So he can just spikes on you with Ferrothorn, or just ceaseless edge you to death. You don't really have a switch into Aqua Cutter. And if you want to switch in your backs, well, you better hope he doesn't accidentally quick Sacred Sword. So I think Samurott is really going to be the difference maker in this set. And
I also think that when he, like, I know it still says it on the screen because you didn't change it, but I think with his trade of getting rid of Zoroark, I think he's lost a lot of his mind game potential and things that, like, which was a big part of how he was playing before. So I don't see a way that Josh loses this game.
yeah, I mean, I can see a way, but I think with just the way of, I mean, Croc infamously just does not have hazard removal. Like, yeah, you have Comfey now, but like realistically, like, how confident are you bringing it to this game where there's an Iron Moth and a Ferrothorn? You know what I mean? So like, even if he does bring it, like, it's gonna be tough to switch it in to a Samurott who could be banded, and Aqua Cutter is gonna be doing a lot. Or, yeah, so I think Samurott, in my opinion, Samurott's probably going to be the difference maker in this set. And for Croc, again, I mean, even though I think that, I mean, Croc's really going to have to find a way to stop the Mousehold, obviously the Altaria. I mean, just so many threats on Josh's team. I mean, Croc's whole season has kind of just been, like, relenting offense. And I think Josh's team has proven to also do that, but also have more utility and defensive options. So I think just at a pure just team matchup, I think Josh's team is just the superior version of Croc's team.
All right.
I mean, choose to believe in Croc. I'm giving it to Croc.
Well, unfortunately, you're outvoted 2-0, Josh.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
not.
Come on.
Like, I can see. Okay,
know it.
I'll say 2-0, but to be fair to Croc, I think he can definitely take a game. And again, kind of like the first time Tanner and Croc played, sometimes all it takes is a Dragon Dance or two with Gyarados, and you can 6-0 someone. And that's kind of the scary thing. So I think Croc, he could very well sneak this set away and really keep pace with Wu, if Wu is to beat Tabs as we are predicting. But assuming that 6-0 sweep just doesn't happen, I find it very difficult for Croc to deal with the utility and just the offensive pressure from Josh.
Agreed.
Oh,
We got anything to add? Anything to say? Anything more, Plasma?
I mean, I guess
I think that one's gonna be game of the week for sure. I think Croc against Josh is game of the week for me, because I think that one is gonna be very surprising. Like I said, I mean, I was like, as you guys were talking, I was kind of just thinking about some other things, and I think you guys are missing things, maybe just off a first glance. But I think that game is a lot closer than we think it is. So we'll see.
we will see. But all right. So I guess since this is week 13 and teams have kind of starting to settle in, this is the bracket as of right now. I am going to make the adjustments that I think will most likely happen going into playoffs. I think Wu is going to take the last spot in our conference, because again,
Unreal.
with our predictions, he's beating Tabs, and that means no matter what, if Chase wins or loses against Wu in the last week, it doesn't matter because Chase just can't catch up. So I think Wu's going to take that spot. Croc's end season is way too hard. I think Wu is pretty confidently in my mind making it to playoffs. And then another coach, I don't see Noah making playoffs. Again, end season is very hard. And with the way B has been playing, I think B is very capable of taking that last spot. and I think
I agree.
we will see the B man in playoffs again. I said it last season, but B was on the precipice of playoffs. Just came into an 0-4 record, had to take over a team new to the league, new to draft league. Just not a good situation. Now that he's had a full season, I think he's in a very good spot, and I think again the Maz and JC and Tanner and Chris, those games are on lock, and then me and Josh are on lock as well. So it's just these last two slots right here, the 7 and 8 seed. In my eyes, this is what I am predicting for playoffs.
I think I'm keeping everything on here except for Woo for Croc.
Okay.
I'm gonna choose to believe him. I'm gonna put my heart with my boy.
I don't think Croc's making it. I think if anything, it'll be Woo, or I mean, I guess I'll say me just because technically I'm an option still there. But like I think if anyone is gonna end up taking it, most realistically, it's Woo, for sure.
Right. And do we all kind of agree that B is probably gonna seek that spot, or do we think Preston?
100%.
Or maybe Noah. Maybe Noah beats me and JC. Who knows? But
I think B is. I think like you said, B has been playing great with his team, and especially towards the end of the season, I think he's scary in the playoffs for sure. I think he's scary as hell in the playoffs. So y'all watch out for B.
all right. So
We'll see. I think it's all gonna come down to B's prep. I think that's what's gonna be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, I mean that's of course.
it's gonna be. You know, he plays very well, regardless of. I mean, he played very well in this games against Chris, and honestly, I kind of feel like the you know, Palaf and Palmont show that kind of happened does not really reflect how well B played, considering what he brought for what he prepped for. I think that, you know, obviously it's kind of easy to say it's going to come down to prep because that's kind of just how draft works. But I think that one, you know, I think B making playoffs will come down to diving more so into the move sets and making sure that things check and counter things like you expect them to.
I mean, the
So.
biggest one is just gonna be, you know, last week he had to deal with Chin Pao. This week he had to deal with Palafin. He did a great job with Chin Pao. Struggled a little bit against Palafin, but that's to be expected. Next week, season on the line to make it in the playoffs. He's got to go against Last Respects Basket Legion. The three demons of the league: Last Respects, Palafin, Chin Pao, back to back to back. These playoff race has definitely been probably the hardest out of anyone. But he's kind of been pushing through it. So, again, it really just comes down to that game with Preston. But in my mind, I mean, I see B winning that just based off the mental state of the coaches alone. I think B has been very hungry to make playoffs. He's been really fiending for it. And Preston, he's kind of been clocked out in a way, even though he definitely shouldn't be. But yeah, so we all agree on B, and then the only difference is that you think Croc's making over Tanner, or Tanner, you think Croc's making over Woo.
I do.
So this is the
Where's
playoff
everyone?
bracket we're kind of expecting, which is
This is
kind
the,
of crazy.
The beginning of the Juice World Series leading into the final straw.
Final
So-
straw.
The final straw, man.
I would ask
This-
for predictions of the bracket, but I mean, me and Tanner are on the same side, and obviously we both think we're both gonna win out. So I mean, it's not a
I
whole
can do
lot
mine
yet
since I'm a little unbiased.
All right,
I
Chase.
can
Yeah,
get my
okay,
prediction.
okay. First, let's hold on. Let me take a piss real quick, and I'll be right back.
Oh, all right. Intermission. Pull up the
middle of
curtain.
the video intermission.
Middle
That's
of the
right.
video. That's crazy. If only he knew how to edit.
Oh no.
If only he knew
Oh.
how to edit, bro. We could cut right back. Snap of the finger. Oh.
That's right.
Tanner, how you feeling, man? What's going through your head as we're coming to a close of the season?
I'm feeling good, man. The season's
Okay.
definitely I've thoroughly enjoyed. Obviously, my favorite season so far. Of course, bringing Gen 9 Mons in, changing things with allowing the Terra captains and um, adding more new players, more new friends, that sort of thing. So it's all kind of
Yeah,
come together.
100%.
Definitely enjoy how personal the league is with everybody. We're all kind of in there watching each other's games, cheering each other on.
100%.
A little bit of smack talker Skywalker going on most of the time too with everybody.
That's
So
right.
that's
know me, man.
always that's right. That's
Somebody's
always a
got
fun
somebody's
time.
got to do it, bro. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very this
Alright,
this
the dog
is
is
this
back. The dog
obviously
is
is
back.
always back. Okay, all right. No, season's been great. Season's been amazing. Can't wait for next season. I'm excited
We'll
to see
stop with
what the future holds.
Well, I
We'll
guess.
stop with the Naruto and get into it.
Alright, so I guess there's one thing I've been meaning to mention to you, Tanner, and I guess since we're recording the video now, I guess now's the best time more than any. Coming into this season, you predicted to go 12-2. You expected to lose to me, and you expected to lose to JC. Obviously, record doesn't reflect that.
Mhm.
I guess a little bit of a follow-up with our interview going into the season, but as a whole, how have you felt about your season? Obviously, it didn't go as expected, but do you
Ask
still
this
think?
question.
Do you still think? Oh, did you? Oh,
We
fuck.
just talked about this in the
No,
Alright,
video.
never-
yours was more about the league in general, Chase. So I mean, if we want to talk about like my season personally,
All right, go for it.
then we can. So let me. I gotta rewind the clock a little bit. So my losses this season are Croc, Plaz, Josh, and Chris.
Yes.
So obviously my season we're in playoffs, so it's a success. It's a success for the main part of the series for sure. The the little rough patch. I mean, I think it's easy to pretty much say like it definitely came down to play for sure, except for so Chris and I's games were a lot closer, than I kind of expected them to be. I'll say, and Josh's game is, in my opinion, set of the season caliber game. Just kind of one of those things where it's unfortunately one of us has to lose. Unfortunately, it was me off of a Thunder Wave miss. That's Pokemon. So that loss I'm okay with. The loss against like you and Croc was definitely just like you guys absolutely just played me, and that kind of sucks because I'm fine getting outplayed and losing, but not to that extent to where it was kind of just like, damn, did it like that? I might as well just have not played because it was just that bad. That's how I look at those two losses, because it was just that bad.
Right.
So where does
Other
the
than
Chris
that,
loss
though-
fall into? So Josh was set of the season. Me and Croc, you don't want to talk about it. So where does Chris's loss fall into here on the tier list?
Chris's loss, I think,
Underestimation.
I mean, it falls in probably right in the middle. And it's weird to say because if I'm not mistaken, I have the same team
When
that
you
I
played
did
Chris?
have, like, except for Vikavolt.
Yeah,
I
you
think
did.
Vikavolt is the only-
Yeah, that was when you had. I think that was the first week you had Arcanine, and that was the first week you
Yes.
had the Meowscarada.
Yes. So a little bit of filling out for the Arcanine, kind of a little bit of understanding about how to use it better than back then, and I'm a little bit more confident with using it now. I mean, I over prepped for probably something I didn't need to. So and he had little tech things that were definitely hard for me to deal with, for sure. I think you change, and then he also had something that just completely, like, I was never expecting. That Scarf Palafin. That would have been like one of the last items that I would have even thought about for him to bring on Palafin. So that did just catch me off guard. But I mean, like I said, you know, if I'm remembering the set correctly, it wasn't. Did we go to game 3? Or was it 2-0?
I can pull it up.
I don't remember. I don't quite remember. Honestly, I was definitely a little bit frustrated after I lost that, for sure.
It was a 2-0. 2-0 for
2-0, okay.
differential.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, 2-0s never feel like close, but you know, in my mind at least, you know, a 2-0 is never close. When I'm on the losing end of things. So, change a couple of things. Don't prep so hard for something that was honestly pretty like not illogical, but just something that more than likely was not happening, was not coming. And you know, I am very confident in the team that, you know, I've put together for him this time, and I know he's also very confident in his team for mine. I think that one is also going to be very much, you know, set of the season caliber type of thing. So I mean, I think Chris's falls right in the middle. Yours and Croc is kind of just really unfortunate, and you know, like, not unfortunate. Unfortunate is the wrong word. You guys just played better than me, and then Josh's is. I would really hate to see, you know, as a spectator, I would really hate to see either one of those people lose, because I think we both played very well. It just came down to a Thunderwave miss. So.
So I guess I think the best way to do this is I think we talk about the bottom half of the bracket first, and then once we get done with that, I think Chase talks about the top half, because obviously me and you are in it, so we can't really talk about it. But
Right.
All right, so bottom half of the bracket, we got B versus Josh. Best of 5 sets. We gotta remember this. How are we feeling here?
I think Josh is taking it.
Okay.
I think the reason Josh will take it, I think B will come in hot. I think he'll come off strong first game, maybe even the second game. But I think as soon as Josh, like, I mean, I guess technically you could say the same thing, like as soon as like B figures things out, but I think once Josh has like a solid game plan, and I also think Josh's team is like pretty good into B's, so I think it'll be like a 3-1 Josh.
Okay. I will say though, I just looked it up. Week 3, B versus Josh. It was a 1-2 set with a 2 differential, so a very close game that B just barely lost. But he did lose. However, he does have a very different team now, a little bit more confident. In my mind, I don't see Josh not making it to at least semis. Whether he makes finals or not, that is for time to tell. But I would be not that this is an unwinnable game for B, but I think Josh is just a very intelligent player, and especially in a best of 5 set where you have a lot. That shit is a fucking movie, bro. Like, that is what tests the mental, and we all kind of know B not the strongest mental player in the league. If things don't start off strong for him, it's gonna snowball real quickly. So for me, I have Josh winning this one. I'll go with 3-1 as well.
So I think we're gonna have this is the way that I see the set going. I think we're gonna have a game 1 and game 2 split. I think it's gonna be whoever wins game 1 loses game 2. And then at that point, it's gonna come down to just play and possible hacks and all that type of stuff. Just mons, essentially.
Right.
So who's at that point, I would probably just look at the mons and the team. I mean, yeah, I think based off of mental alone, sometimes I think I have to give it to Josh. But I mean, I think B's team is one of the best teams for Josh's, especially the new portion of his team. Can have a lot of answers to the thing and be able to like cripple Josh's team in a best of 5. So I mean, I'll say Josh. I think it's a very loose Josh if B is able to stay out of his own head and not let the mental portion of things get to him. I think his team is one of the most capable to take on Josh's. So I think that one's a little hard for me to call. I think it's quite possible this one goes the distance, depending on mental states. So I'm gonna be the bolster for B's mental state here, and I'm gonna say that it ends up going to a game 5, but I will probably put Josh ahead in that game 5.
Alright, fair enough. Next up, rematch of semifinals of last season, Mnez versus JC. I'm gonna go first because I was on the receiving end of playoffs Mnez, and I know I started with that, but ironically, I don't think he's winning this. I think JC beat him pretty convincingly this season in the regular season. Granted, both teams are pretty different now. They have a lot of different core members, but the fact of the matter is, JC's team has only gotten even scarier for Mnez's because he now has an Intimidate Hitmontop with Technician, or he can do Technician Mach Punch for Chin Pao. And as long as he keeps that in the back, I don't know how Chin Pao survives. And with a lot of other things working in favor of JC, again, we've said this to them in the call earlier today, but they play very similar play styles. But I think JC's team is better at that play style than Mnez's team is. And I mean, that's really funny to say because he has Dragapult, Chin Pao, and Espathra, but I think what JC has cooking, not that I know anything he has specifically for this set. Jesus Christ, it's way too late. But I think JC definitely not salty, but definitely looking out for blood after losing to him, preventing him from going to finals last season. And especially just the big one for me is momentum here. I think with the momentum, just the absolute wave of momentum JC's riding into this playoff match, I don't. As much, this is going to be a super hot take. Perhaps a little bit too spicy, but I could, honest to God, I could see JC 3-0ing Mnez. That's how hot of a streak I think JC is on.
I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and go.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think this is the worst game for Mnez to have to play in playoffs with the trades that he made. I think literally any other game with the trades that he made would have done better for him. But I think this game with the trades that he has now, the Pokemon, they're great trades, but I think just JC has a lot of answers for the things that he brought. I also agree that JC has been riding the momentum, and he did beat Mnez before. Now, Plaz did mention how playoff MNAS is something different. He just kind of hits a switch and he goes crazy. I would like to see him go further, but I think unless he really honestly just finds a way to prep diff JC and pull something crazy that we just don't know about, I do kind of think that JC is heavily favored to win this matchup. So I think I'm going to give it a 3-1, just in maybe things of like hacks, things like that could go wrong for JC or either for MNAS. So I'm going to give it a 3-1, but I am going to give it to JC. Tanner, you can go.
I mean, yeah, I'm just going to kind of continue that. I mean, I think this is a very offensive-driven set. I think this is going to be a very out of control, and the person who has the momentum has it the entire time. I think the person who is losing might take a game off, but I think they're inevitably getting 3-1, and I think it's JC. I think JC's coming out on top, so.
I like how we're all in agreement that this, even though this is like a very competitive set like you and Chris, I find it very interesting that we all kind of agree that this is probably not going the distance. I find that very interesting. But okay. So then that leaves Josh and JC going into the semis. Historically, they were in the same division, so this would be the third time they play. And historically, Josh has always beaten JC. Question is, can new JC beat Josh?
AKA, can Terra Fairy Garganackle beat Josh?
I mean, hey, that is true. But I mean, just looking at Terror Captains alone, it's a big 50-50 gamble, because if he Terrors Fairies, he can Sludge Bomb. If he stays Rock, he can Terror Grass Energy Ball. So, just Terror Captains alone, a lot of mind games there.
For sure. I mean, yeah.
I think Josh beats JC 3-0.
No, I don't. I think this one goes the distance, but I think Josh wins.
I just think Josh does a lot of things that just kind of make JC always have to, like, it feels like against Josh's team, for me, that JC's like playing behind a lot. So especially if Josh gets set up with things that, like, if he gets even 2 fiery dances up, I mean, it's bad. It's not looking good. So I just don't see. I mean, I guess that might be a little too presumptuous to say it's a 3-0, but I just feel like it's a really hard game for JC to play. So that's my reasoning for thinking Josh is going 3-0.
Oh man, this one's real close. I think that this one, yeah, I think this one has to go to the distance too. I mean, I think it's gonna come down to JC like learning and playing around Josh's sets. And I think it's going to come down to him actually having to make a couple of predictions absolutely perfectly to get to the place where he can put himself in a winning position. Man, you know what, man? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just say, if JC gets to semis, he's getting the finals.
Alrighty.
I guess we have a split thing here so far. So Plaz, what is your input? Who's taking the cake, man? Who's going to the finals? Is it Josh or is it JC?
So I'm gonna give a little bit of an analysis here because as you can see very clearly on the top half of the bracket, everyone in my division is making it. So very realistically, I'm gonna have to play 2 teams 3 times in 1 season. And one thing that's really good about that is well, not Chris, but for Woo at least, I've beat him twice. And when you beat someone once, it's like, okay, they got the better of me, I can play them again. When you beat them the second time, that puts a lot of mental damage on the other person because it's like I knew what beat me last time, and I still couldn't win. And that does some for real mental damage. And JC isn't one to really get mental shattered again when he lost to Josh. I mean, different team, different outlook. He's been putting a lot more work and a lot more time in, so I guess you could say new JC. But point of the matter is, he lost to Josh twice this season, and there were divisional games, which again has even more weight to them. I think JC is definitely riding a lot of momentum, and again, I have him 3-0ing MNES in the quarters, but I think he really gets pushed to his limits against Josh, and I think again Josh has that weird X factor in him where he just throws games, but I think once he gets to playoffs, he's gonna be very locked in, very focused, and I think personally, as much as I would love to play JC in finals, I don't think he's going to make it there. I think Josh is going to be that brick wall that he's going to hit. I think Josh's team, I said it's going to go the distance, so I think it's going to be 3-2, but I think Josh's team is too good to not make it to finals. I think his team alone is just ridiculous, and I think again, with a lot of the mind games that's going to be forced, I think a lot of the mind games are more on JC's end than they are Josh's end. And I think that's kind of going to be what breaks the camel's back in the end.
Yeah. All right, so is it my time to shine? Do I gotta talk about the next two or the next three things?
You got to talk about the next three games. Well, I mean, I guess I can
I'll just
kind
do
of.
it.
I guess we
Let me-
can kind of
let
get. Well, me and Tanner can give some input, but obviously we're gonna be extremely biased. So for the most part, it's gonna be you talking. But okay, so we have
I think I'm gonna just hand the mic.
All right, yeah.
I'm gonna
Chase it. You cook, man. You cook.
All right, so this is me. I think I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna talk about. Okay, I'll start with Plaza and Blue, right? I think kind of Plaz said it best that no matter who he plays, whether it's Croc or Wu, it won't really be competitive. Kind of how he just talked about, like he's beaten Wu twice already, and Wu's mental, like, not necessarily mental, but he just doesn't. He don't have that like tenacity with the play of the league and stuff like that. So I feel like Plaza is going to easily make it to semifinals. I'm thinking 3-0. I'm thinking Plaza's 3-0 and Wu. Now Tanner and Chris is a big game. I think that Tanner and Chris, they've both been hyping this up. They've both been prepping. They've both been talking crazy. Made some trades and things like that. Oh no, I guess y'all didn't make trades. Oh yeah, Tanner made a trade. And they have both been really hyping this game up, and this one really is tough for me to think. Like, usually I don't have a problem like saying what direction it's gonna go, but I honestly don't know because I've kind of seen both sides of the ball here. I've seen like some of the things Chris has been cooking, some things Tanner's been cooking. I really don't know how much things are gonna change from like the last time they played. Really, I'm hopeful. I think it'll go to a game 5 for sure. I think it'll go to a game 5 for sure. Tanner and Chris. Now on who I think is gonna win, I think statuses and things will be a huge part of the game. I think the way that I'm gonna put it like this: if Tanner can break down within the first game or two the things that Chris has going on, I think Tanner can win. But I think otherwise, I think Chris is taking the game. And that it hurts me to say, because I think I would love for Tanner to go the distance and make some things happen for the Payton household, but I just think that Chris has been on a huge. He's been playing incredible, and he's been cooking a lot of things up. Now he could absolutely throw the bag and just prep too much and just overthink it all, and Tanner just destroy him. But I think Chris will. I think Chris will take the game, but I think it's gonna be extremely close. I don't think it'll be an easy set for either one of them, no matter what. So I think honestly in this whole playoff bracket, I think Chris is the only one to necessarily come close to rivaling Plaz for the chip. Not just because Chris beat him. I just think I think Plaz definitely trolled his brains out when he played Chris the first time. But, so I guess moving into that, yeah, so Plaz I think is going to 3-0 Woo, and I think Chris is going to win 3-2, extremely close game. Really could go either way, but I think it's going to be 3-2 Chris. Semifinals with Plaz versus Chris. Now, like I mentioned a second ago, I think Plaz just kind of tried something different against Chris, and it didn't quite work out the way that he had hoped. And I think if Plaz reels it back in a little bit, he'll beat Chris. I think Plaz should 3-1 Chris. Even 3-2. I think Plaz should win it no matter what. I think Plaz should 3-1 Chris. In my head, the way I'm thinking about things, and things maybe Plaz could have done differently, or even just the way things are going. I think Plaz really should 3-1 Chris. Especially, I think Plaz has a lot more of the he has a lot more Pokemon knowledge and experience that he can use against Chris when it comes to the longevity of the matches. He's a lot more used to those things, and I think Plaz can use that to his advantage for sure. I think Chris has the best chance of taking Plaz to the closest possible sets, just because of how threatening his team is. So yeah, I think Plaz is going to 3-1 Chris, and I think it'll be Plaz and Josh in the finals. And unfortunately to say this, I don't see a way that Josh takes a game off of Plaz. I think the bottom half of the playoff bracket is a pushover compared to the top half of the playoff bracket.
Damn, G-Show said conference diff.
I mean, I really do. I think the games in the bottom half are a lot closer than the games in the top half when it comes to maybe skill or just the way the matches could go. But I think whoever makes it to the finals from the top half is gonna win the whole thing.
I've told Chris, and I think I've told Tanner this as well, but I share the same sentiment. I think whoever wins the semis on the top half is probably gonna win the chip.
Yeah. Now I think if the playoffs, if the finals comes down to Josh and Chris, I think Josh has a chance. I think he does. I think Josh has a chance of beating Chris. But I really think that Plaz is going to pull it together and not let it happen again, especially when it's a best of 5. That's a lot. That's a lot, man. A best of 5 is a lot to go through, and you gotta really be locked in and ready for it. And I think Plaz is just a little bit more locked in. So I think Plaz is finally gonna get him a chip, and I think it's gonna be 3-0 in the finals.
So you think the only game I'm dropping this entire tournament is one game against Chris in semis?
Yes.
Fair enough. So let's speak not devil's advocate, but let's speak for, I guess, the quote-unquote underdog in Tanner. If we get a rematch between Tanner and Josh, who you got?
Tanner and Josh. I think I have to give it to Josh. I think Josh's team is really good against even against Tanner's trades that he's made. I think Josh has a lot of ways to really just kind of sweep through once like 1 or 2 mons are dead. I think Tanner could definitely play around that, but I think Josh will just end up getting more damage and chip off on Tanner's mons than Tanner's can do to him. It'll all really depend on like leads and things like that and how the momentum's going, but I think Josh's team would do a lot better against Tanner's than it would against like Chris's or yours.
Fair enough. Trying to think if there's anything we can add on to that, but I mean, it's like I said before we started, me and Tanner are obviously going to be extremely biased in what we say, but
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else we gotta add on, or if that's it.
Yeah. I think the last thing that I'm gonna add on is you better motherfucking come correct or don't fucking come at all.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna say.
That's facts. That's true. You better come ready. Nobody made it to playoffs because they just weren't didn't have that dog in them. So
hold on. Since Tanner said that, I gotta pull up the quote, man. I gotta pull up the quote.
Thinking you can eliminate the Pittsburgh Knights
Oh,
on the world
man.
stage. Absolute maestros of
Right here.
Battle of
This is
Inferno.
the Finch
Radiance,
quote,
we
man.
thought they were gonna win it. 3 Phoenixes down for 5 full minutes. PK, they're not going to make it easy for anyone. The defending world champions want another ring.
My goodness, is this PK team resilient? You are not beating them easily. They will not go quietly. You must come correct, or you must not come at all. What a performance from the Knights, from the whole squad.
Imagine.
That.
I prefer not to come at all. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I'm feeling coming into the playoffs, man. You best come correct when you play me, man, cause
It's not come at all.
we gonna be saucing, man. We gonna be saucing. So
Now let's talk about the underlying match between me and Plaz in the first round of playoffs.
okay, I
Let's
mean,
talk about that shit.
all
This
right.
is a 2.5-hour video.
This
Is it really?
This is we're at an
Oh,
hour.
it's
We're at
weird.
an hour 32 right now.
Damn.
Oh,
So
Lord.
we be talking. God.
Yeah, we've been recording this video since 2 o'clock.
That's crazy, man. I don't know what the chances are really that I make playoffs against Plaz, but I personally think that I can give Plaz the closest quarterfinal match.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, you had me beat, so yeah.
That's no shade to Woo or Croc. I just think truly I can give him the closest one. So, I hope for closeness of the top bracket's sake, to make Plaz actually have to sweat a little, that it's me who makes it. But if it's not, then Plaz is winning the whole season.
All
So-
right. I mean,
There you go.
And thinks he's him.
I mean, I thought Plaz was him last season.
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh, I think I'm him. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you think you're him. You think you're Wall Maria.
For
mean-
I mean, this is I mean, I've gave Plaz his closest game this season.
he's not wrong. I mean, to I guess expand a little bit on what Chase said. I mean, obviously the streak was at sacrifice when I played Chris, but it was a more strategic sense than any just kind of hit the nail on the head, just testing things out, because I'd much rather limit tests in regular season and know what works and what doesn't than not test at all and going into playoffs
But
blind.
you got hacks out of your mind in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that is also another big thing, and me and Chris can have our own opinions on that game, but I think a game 2, he just had me beat regardless, but I think if that goes to a game 3, that definitely becomes interesting. And yeah, so that's neither here or there, but
Right.
yeah, I think obviously for me, I find it interesting that you think I'm only losing one game this entire run. Because personally, I don't even think that's gonna happen. But I still obviously would have myself winning the whole thing.
I just don't see I don't see how you can. Well, I said it would be like 3-1, Chris. So, oh well, yeah, that's only one. But I just think you're too good of a player to let this slip out of your way, especially with how dominant you've been against these teams that you're going to play. I think if Tanner beats Chris, I mean, then the run I think Chris's team is better than yours and Tanner's team, and I think if Tanner beats Chris, then your playoff run will be easier. Just off of team, I think you have a pretty steady track to the finals here. This is the easiest track to finals you've had all 3 seasons. I feel like.
Alrighty. Dog Chase has spoken his truth. Is there anything you wanna? I mean, you already said what you had to say, but I mean, I guess is there
I mean,
like any?
I mean no disrespect to anybody. I'm just calling it how I kind of view it and how I see it.
I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna let the games speak for themselves.
I
So
think that's the
Tanner's
best way to go
hating-
about it.
you
Tanner
best
hates
come
me right
correct, or you best not come at all. So I mean, that's how we're rocking with the win streak that I have going, right now. So and I've said many times I ain't losing another game. So
When two unstoppable forces collide, one is bound to fall. That's all I'm saying.
and an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. So
Had your number last season in the semis. You best hope that you don't make it there again, big man.
I'm the same as echoed right back to you. You best hope you don't make it. So
Fair enough.
Well, he's making it.
so all right, bro, relax. Fucking.
I'm saying he's making it to the semis. I didn't I was saying he's definitely beating Wu.
All right, it's time to end the video.
Yeah, it's an hour and 37 minutes long. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is the predictions and bracket run. I guess we'll also make one after week 13 and also one actually going into playoffs. So a couple more brackets to go through, but yeah, feel pretty confident that this is the bracket we're gonna have and all that jazz. So this video's already long enough. We're gonna get out of here, and yeah. You guys, any
Peace out.
final words?
I'm excited. Even if I don't make playoffs, I'm definitely gonna be probably making videos, casting the peanut gallery, sharing things like that. So I'm just looking forward to finishing out this season and just honestly to see who the winner's gonna be. I'm ready to see these playoff matches.
You best come correct, or you best not come at all.
Me and Tanner share the same sentiment, so especially since we're on the same side of the bracket, it's gonna be an interesting one. Hope this video has amped everyone up, especially the 8 coaches on the screen that you see here. So yep, we're gonna get on out of here and see y'all a different day.
Later.
Adios.